Welcome. In this lesson, we're going to talk about parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines, first of all, are very, very simple. Parallel lines have the same slope. So if line A has a slope of negative 9/7, line B is parallel, well, then line B must have the exact same slope, a negative 9/7, not 76. Very simple, okay? So line U has a slope of negative 8/5. Line V has a slope of negative 8/5. Are lines U and V parallel or perpendicular? Since they're exactly the same slope, they're parallel. Now let's talk really quickly about what it would mean to be perpendicular. To be perpendicular, and I'm going to do my best to draw a straight line. If I had a line with some slope, okay? So I'm going to do the slope here. Let's say the slope is up 3 and over 2, okay? So I have a rise of 3 and a run of 2 for this blue line. And by the way, that blue line does keep going. I just didn't want to draw it so far that I'd start messing up because I can't draw very straight with this program. Now, perpendicular means at right angles. Let's imagine this blue line being rotated about one little endpoint of this little right triangle, because the red lines are perpendicular to each other because one's vertical and one's horizontal. Okay? If I was to rotate it either clockwise or counterclockwise, I don't care which way you do it, but if you rotate it 90 degrees, the horizontal line will end up becoming, the vertical line will end up becoming horizontal, and the horizontal line will end up becoming vertical. So can you kind of see how that red angle's been rotated clockwise to this position? And then if I take the other endpoint right here and I connect it with this endpoint, I draw a line, and this might not be very good, but that line, since it was rotated 90 degrees, is at right angles or is perpendicular. But now let's think about what happened to my rise and my run. Now my rise became my run, and my run became my rise. And instead of going up, I'm going down. One of these is negative, right? So perpendicular lines, their slopes are opposite in sign and flipped upside down. So the perpendicular slope of a negative 8/5 would be a positive 5/8. That would be the perpendicular slope to this one. If it's anything else other than the same or the opposite in sign reciprocal, then it would be neither. So we'll get to more of those in just a minute. But think of that the rise becomes the run becomes the rise, and it changes sign. It'll go from positive to negative, or it will go from negative to positive. All right, so let's look at this one. We have a negative 5/6. If line F is perpendicular to line E, well, if it's perpendicular, take that fraction, flip it upside down, so the 6 will be on top, the 5 will be on bottom, and change the sign. Since it's negative, it's now going to be positive. Now you don't need to type in the plus symbol, you just need to type in 6/5. Okay? Now, they're giving you the full equation. Remember, y equals mx plus b. So the slope is the number that sits in front of the x as long as it's written in slope-intercept form. We just had an assessment on this. We've been, tested many times. That number right there is our slope. So the slope of this first line is 5/3. The slope of the second line is 5/3. That's exactly the same number. So they are parallel. Again, here they give us line D with a slope of negative 4/7. They want another line that's parallel to it. It would be the same slope, negative 4/7. Now here they give us an equation of the line, and then they want line V to be perpendicular to it. So the first thing is we got to identify the slope of this line. Well, it's that number that sits right there in front of X. It's 7 over 4 is the slope of the line that's given. We want to be perpendicular, so I'm going to flip it upside down. I'm going to put the 4 on top, the 7 on bottom. Since this 7 force was positive, perpendicular will be a negative 4 over 7. And that's what I type in, negative 4 over 7. Now I'm going to jump up here to some higher ones because I want to make sure you realize that what they're going to do is they're going to also give you line passing through 2 points and another line passing through 2 points and ask you if it's parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Well, remember, how do we find slope? How much does this point go from here to here? Does it go up or down? Well, from 5 to 1, it goes down 4. That's my rise over. And how much do I go from 1 to 8? Here's my run. 1 to 8 is an increase of 7. I'm not sure why, but I've got in the habit of doing my y's first, or the top of my fraction first, over the bottom. There's nothing wrong with doing the bottom first if you want. In other words, this second line, going from 8 to 1, has went down 7, and the 7 to 3 is going down 4. Now, I have two negatives. Two negatives cancel, making it a positive on both of them. This is a positive 4/7. This is a negative 4/7. Well, if they're not exactly the same, they're not parallel. If they're not opposite in sign and flipped upside down, one from the other, then they're not perpendicular. This is neither. So you're going to get a lot of ones that have the same ratio, 4 over 7, 4 over 7, but one's negative, one's positive. That would always be neither. Again, here, the equation of the line is y equals 2/7 x plus 4. Line D is perpendicular to C. What is the slope? Well, if it's perpendicular, I take that slope of 2/7, flip it upside down, and since it's positive, it's going to be negative 7 over 2. And if you have any questions on this, please do bring it to class, and I will help you then.